So this video is worthy for sure. Because again, this is, a few years back, and I would always, and I mentioned this, I've done this probably 3 times or so. One of them is called the Cycles of Government video I've done, where it talks about, philosophers from back in the day really talking about, hang on. All right. Talking about cycles of government from anarchy to kings and queens, monarchies to oligarchies to, democracies. And they said democracy is actually a degenerate form of one of the other ones, and it won't last. And they've proven this, so I thought this is a really educational article I want to talk about, right? I've done some on the Roman Empire and how the Romans did the same things, or maybe I should say we are doing the same things they did for the same reasons. They had pensions, we had pensions, they did this, we do this, they fell, and I'm telling you, this is just history. We're not going to be the superpower, probably for not too much longer. So this is a good article. It's done by Zero Hedge from a guy named Adam Taggart via peakprosperity.com. Joseph Tainter, the collapse of complex societies. You could argue the Roman Empire was one of the most complex societies, especially of its time. Technologically speaking, incredible, right? By popular demand, we welcome Joseph Tainter, USU professor and author of The Collapse of Complex Societies, which there's a free book download here, he says, which again, you can link, I'll link it. Dr. Tainter sees many of the same unsustainable risks the peakprosperity.com audience focuses on: an over-leveraged economy, declining net energy per capita, and depleting key resources. He argues that the sustainability or collapse of a society follows from the success or failure of its problem-solving institutions. I must interject immediately now. Our problem-solving institutions are the banks, the Federal Reserve, and the numerous government agencies, alphabet agencies, Bureau of Land Management, FBI, all this stuff. And is there fraud and corruption in each and every one of those? How about your elected officials themselves? The answer is yes. So the success or failure of the problem-solving institutions. If they're successful, then we should stay successful. If they're not successful, fraud, corruption, payoff, pay to play, then we will fall. That's what it's essentially saying. So I have to ask you, where do we fall in that line? You already know the answer. Not looking good. His work shows that societies collapse when their investments in social complexity and their energy subsidies reach a point of diminishing marginal returns. Speaking of that, we printed how many trillions up until 1980? None. No trillions. 1776, we'll call it, day one of the United States. We'll just round that off. 1980, we just finally got our first $1 trillion in debt. Bush gets in, etc. 3 trillion, 6 trillion. He leaves, 9 trillion. Barack takes over, 9, 10. Instantly, as Bush is leaving, Barack's walking in. Can't blame either of them. It goes up $1 trillion. So we're at 10 trillion now. It's now 20 trillion, 8 years later. And again, they pretty much added $1 trillion that's not really on the books yet, just to get us through this year. So that's another $1 trillion. They'll have to bounce through the budget thing, kick the can. That'll probably be another $1 trillion. We'll be at 22 trillion before you know it. The rule of diminishing returns, right? So that's what he's saying. From Tainter's perspective, we are likely already past the tipping point towards collapse, but just don't know it yet. And he says, sustainability requires that people have the ability and the inclination to think broadly in terms of time and space. In other words, to think broadly in a geographical sense about the world around them, as well as the state of the whole world as a whole. And also to think broadly in terms of the near and distant future and what resources will be available to our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. One of the major problems in sustainability and in this whole question of resources and collapse is that we did not evolve as a species to have this ability to think broadly in time and space. Instead, our ancestors who lived as hunter-gatherers never confronted any challenges that required them to think beyond their locality in the near term. Another example would be you're playing chess. These days, let's go play a game of chess. Or as I said, my daughter's friend, you guys want to play chess? Can we play chess? Yeah, why not? Let's play chess. If you think one move ahead, you're going to get destroyed. The opponent is going to walk all over you. You're going to lose every time. But if you play chess and you think 2 moves, 3 moves, 4 moves, 5 moves, 6 moves potentially, or more ahead, you stand a greater chance of success in beating your opponent. If I go here, they're probably going to go there. I'll jump that one. He'll get me there. I'll take that one because I'm going to get those 2 pieces, right? It makes sense, right? So he's saying, why don't we do this? Why are we so concerned with me, right now only? I don't care about anybody else, not even my future children and grandchildren, my future family tree. We have developed the most complex society humanity has ever known, and we have maintained it up to this point. I have argued that technological innovation and other kinds of innovation evolve like any other aspect of complexity. The investments in research and development grow increasingly complex and reach diminishing returns. We cannot forever continue to spend more and more on technological innovation when we've reached the point of diminishing returns, which I argue we have reached. Our system of innovation is going to change very significantly over the next 20 to 30 to 50 years or so. By the end of the century, our system of innovation will not be anything like what we know today. It will have to be very different. And it's likely that innovation is not going to be available, it is likely that innovation is not going to be able to solve our problems as readily as it has done to this point. The technological optimists have assumed that the productivity of innovation is either constant or increasing, and in fact, what I think my colleagues and I can show, is that the productivity of innovation is actually decreasing. What that means is that we will not forever be able to solve resource problems through innovation. And so individuals need to take responsibility for their own ignorance. As I said, our species did not evolve to think broadly in terms of time and space, and if we're going to maintain our way of life, people have to learn to do so. People have to take responsibility for knowing and understanding the predicament that we're facing. I have argued over the last few years that we need to start teaching early school-age children, kindergarten through 12, to think differently, to think broadly in terms of time and space, to think historically, to think long-term about the future, to think broadly about what's going on in the world around us instead of the narrow way, the narrow local way that most people live and think. So I put responsibility on individuals to broaden their knowledge. Because you can't rely on the schools. The schools are being told by the federal, education department, Common Core, do this, test means nothing. We're getting dumbed down on purpose. So they're dumbing us down on purpose when we need to become smarter so we can think like this guy's talking about thinking to solve problems in the future, while the powers that be want to go the opposite way, which isn't going to end well for nobody, including themselves. Click the play button below to listen to Chris's interview with Joseph Tainter, 42-minute long. So this is, again, Zero Hedge is covering this, but I wanted to read it to you. And if you want to hear the whole thing, it's 44 minutes long. Is this a YouTube? It is on an actual YouTube video, but I'm going to link the Zero Hedge's article so that if you want to read it and then click the link, it's up to you. Again, he also has Joseph Tainter, USU professor and the author of The Collapse of Complex Societies, free ebook download here. And it's a PDF. Simply download it, read the whole thing if you'd like. I'm sure it's quite fascinating. But yeah, this is a problem we have to stare in the face. And when you have greedy, money-hungry, power-hungry people like the Clintons, like a lot of these powerful people out there, they're going to see to it for their own self-interests that the rest of us don't behave and think the way we should be so we can take care of our future. And you would say, but even them, like the Clintons, They have a daughter, Chelsea. Doesn't Chelsea have a daughter too? Actually, I'm not 100% sure on that, but maybe she does, whatever. I thought she did. And then she's going to have a daughter. You know, did the Clintons not wonder, hey, 100 years from now, down the family tree, my actions today aren't really screwing over just my family tree. I'm screwing over the whole world's family tree, at least most Americans. You could argue the whole world by their decisions, pay to play, bomb this country for us, we'll give you a backdoor over there. You know, I mean, and the answer is we've got to start electing people who care. Okay, when the votes are rigged, there's no left or right. You and I try to stand up. Oh, you guys are third party. You guys go over in the third party group. Oh, the third party got 1% of the vote this vote season, this election season. Third party got, oh, this one got 2%. Oh, 98% went to the donkey and the elephant. You know, left and the right. So how do we? Well, I refer you back to the other thing I talked about in the beginning with some of these philosophers back in the day who talked about the cycles of government. And I think all this stuff plays into the cycles changing because people said, come to the realization we can't fix these things because we keep electing you people. And the second we elect one of you, it's like you got a brain implant that just instantly goes to greed and money and power and everything else. And you do everything you said you weren't going to do. All the stuff you said you would not do, you are doing. We'll wait a few years to vote you out. Then another one comes in. Now it's even worse. Things around us are getting worse. Taxes are up. Housing prices is up. We can't afford stuff until the people snap. It gets so bad the people snap, like in Venezuela, and a civil war develops, and someone realizes we don't want to just throw these new bums out and put new ones in because we could already have done that. We need a leader, a genuine person to lead us all the way, and they're going to need absolute power because if they share the power, like the Senate and the House and all, they're just going to be corrupt and they'll never get anything done. The person won't, but those people will be corrupt. So even if you have a president, what can they do? Right? And the people are going to say, we want a king and a queen. And the king's going to come. He's going to be one of the guys that fought in the Civil War. And everybody loves the guy. He's a hero. And his kids were born at the time, so they know what happened. He dies. The guy to leave the throne behind them. Junior, you're the king. The Junior knows because he was around when Papa was, in the Civil War leading people. And Junior does a good job. Everybody's proud of Junior. But then Junior has kids. And when Junior has kids, he's the new king, though. When the new king has kids, his kids are born into the aftermath of everything's okay now. I'm in royalty. My parents, my grandparents were kings. And I heard the story. I heard the history. I know. But right now, everything's beautiful. Life is great for everybody. So they don't have that experience. They're a lot more easy to be corrupted. And they don't have that thing to fall back on, that history lesson that everyone else had to experience. So then people start to get a little upset with them. Some of the decisions they're making aren't good. Your dad wouldn't have done that. Your grandfather would have never done that. People get tired of the king. He's changing things now. This whole one-man power structure, we don't like this anymore. Anarchy ensues. Something else comes. We need a Senate. Okay, we'll have a Senate. We'll share power. Right? The cycles of government. Just search for those two things. The cycle of government. Well, actually not those. I already read you this. Just search for the JSNIP for the cycles of government. Pretty fascinating. But anyways, take care. Matter of fact, what I'm going to do at the end of this video in the top right corner, there's like a little box I can put, like on the left, I usually put on my last video of the day, I put, the subscribe button, click it to subscribe. And on the right side of the video, I put just a random video or whatever. I'm going to find the cycles of government video and put that video right there. So you can click on that as this video is ending. It'll be actually up within the last like 10 or 15 seconds. It pops up by itself. Take care.